Bruce Lee was tested by Steven Seagal and said try your best, 2 seconds later broke his ego. The Dragon's last lesson. The Hong Kong dojo was plunged into a heavy silence, broken only by the sound of Steven Seagal's rapid breathing. He had accepted Bruce Lee's challenge with the arrogance of a man who had never known defeat, until that moment. 2 seconds. That was the time Bruce needed to disarm him, immobilize him on the ground and make it clear that there was no room for inflated egos. Seagal stood up slowly, wiping the blood from his lip with the back of his hand. His eyes, once full of confidence, now burned with a mixture of humiliation and anger. It won't stay like this, he muttered, more to himself than to Bruce. But the master had already turned around, walking towards the window, where the evening light painted the walls gold. A true warrior doesn't seek revenge, said Bruce, without looking back. He learns. Seagal clenched his fists. Learn? He was an Aikido black belt, a martial arts master, not a student. But something in those words bothered him more than defeat. It was the truth. The shadow of obsession. In the months that followed, Seagal immersed himself in brutal training, isolating himself in a temple in the mountains of Japan. He abandoned Aikido, considering it weak compared to Bruce's speed. He studied Jeet Kune Do, Bruce's style, but not as a disciple, as an enemy. Each movement was an attempt to deconstruct what he had seen in that dojo. Each blow, a step closer to proving he could overcome the dragon. Meanwhile, Bruce Lee continued his journey, teaching, filming, writing. He knew Seagal would come back. Not out of pride, but because hatred was a more powerful fuel than discipline for some men. The reunion. The opportunity came at an international tournament in Los Angeles. Seagal, now leaner, faster, with the cold eyes of someone who had spent sleepless nights training until he bled, entered the gym as if he owned the place. Bruce, sitting among the judges, saw him immediately. There was no surprise on his face, just a slight tilt of his head, as if to say, here we are. The confrontation was not scheduled. There were no words, no public challenges. Just a glance exchanged during a demonstration, and then, in the middle of the tournament, Seagal approached the training area where Bruce was warming up a group of students. This time, it won't be so easy, Seagal said, his voice low, controlled. Bruce stopped. He looked at him with an expression that mixed pity and respect. It was never easy, he replied. But you still don't understand what's really at stake. Seagal attacked. The real battle. This time there were no 2 seconds. The blows were quick, precise, a deadly dance of techniques that cancelled each other out. Seagal had studied Bruce, but Bruce had studied him, his anger, his patterns, the way his body reacted to stress. Every attack from Seagal was met with a counterattack that brought him one step closer to the ground. But then, something changed. Bruce didn't knock him down. Instead, he stopped mid-motion, leaving Seagal with his fist inches from his face. You're still fighting me, said Bruce. But the real fight is against yourself. Seagal hesitated. For a second, the mask of hatred fell, and he saw what had always been there, fear. Fear of not being good enough. Fear that, deep down, Bruce Lee was right. And then, he fell to his knees. Not by a blow, but by exhaustion, not of the body, but of the soul. The awakening. Bruce knelt down beside him, placing a hand on his shoulder. The way is not to beat the other, he said softly. It's beating yourself. Until you understand that, there will always be someone faster, stronger, wiser. Seagal closed his eyes. For the first time in years, he didn't feel angry. He felt relief. How will he asked, his voice broken. Bruce smiled. Start again. This time, without the ego. The legacy. Seagal never challenged Bruce Lee again. But he was also never the same again. Years later, when he was already a movie star, he gave a rare interview. They asked him about the man who had defeated him. Bruce Lee didn't beat me, he said, looking directly into the camera. He freed me. And so, the dragon's last lesson was learned: true strength is not in breaking others, but in not letting yourself be broken by your own pride. End.